So along the lines of boycotts, the idea that you're going to turn this thing around, this attorney says the precedent is set nationally that if you sue as a gambler or a fan, you don't have a chance to win.
Yeah.
They generally get thrown out because courts have held that the plaintiffs don't have standing to sue. In this particular framework, the promoter is the fighter. All of a sudden, Tyson gets magically healthy enough to fight, looking like a shell of himself compared to his training videos. So you bought into the farce. That's
It's true. Look,
you're fine. You're a sucker.
yes.
You put your money up on this thing. Now, if you were betting Jake Paul, you're naturally happy, thinking, "Wow, this was the easiest money I ever made." But I mean, the indicator should have been that the guy was being carried out of a plane on a stretcher for some kind of bizarre attack of an ulcer 2 fucking months ago. Instead, we're looking at these training videos and going, "Hey, it looks pretty sharp to me. I wouldn't want to get in there with him."
Yeah, he's punching that bag. I always love when they punch the bag and everyone gets excited. It's like,
You may as well have gone to some bar where they have that thing where they measure the might
yes,
of
where
it.
you punch it one time. Ooh.
$5 in there and gone, "Whoa, look at that, a 700. This guy's fucking tough. I wouldn't want to meet him."
Look, it's again. You watch. There's nothing wrong with. I'm not mocking people who watch it. I don't care. It was free on Netflix. You have
I mean,
Netflix,
to watch it, it's entertainment, some form.
I don't judge people for what they watch, but to then bet on it and then be mad that you
Yeah,
you bet on it.
You motherfuckers, you ripped me off.
What are you doing?
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition, a Tuesday edition of the Defo Show. Not quite in full-fledged holiday mode, but still recovering from the Thanksgiving weekend and festivities. And people, I already have my Christmas tree up, Lubie. It's flashing right here. You can't see
Yeah,
it.
ours as well.
Oh, yeah? What's
Yeah.
it look like? Now, we have a phony tree.
We do the real tree now. Yeah.
Oh, you have a real one?
Yeah. Every year we get the freaking real tree.
That's a pain in the ass. I like that. I mean, obviously.
It's fine. Having a house, I just throw it in the front yard, so they take it. It's just going and buying it every year. They jack up the prices every year.
What are they going for now? Got to be a couple of sticks, no?
Oh, we go to Home Depot, so it's not that bad. We get a 7 to 8 foot tree, and it was like 80, something like that.
More than reasonable, Louie. Anytime you're under a stick on that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They used to be like back in the day. You pick one up for $2 on the streets there in New York. They used to have them like on virtually every corner. Can't remember what the price was, but I don't think it was above $5 because that was a lot of money back then when I was a kid, Louie. When I was a kid. All right, good to be with you. I know you're a little upset about a couple of things. I don't think there's anything worse. I know. In this case, on my Bury Your Bookie show, I gave a very tepid endorsement for the Denver Broncos last night, and the rationale was simply this. Now you're laying 6 points. Denver has been a surprisingly good team this year. They're now 8-5 under Sean Payton. Weren't supposed to do anything. What was Bo Nix? Was he the sixth quarterback taken?
Yes.
At number 15, sixth quarterback taken, something like that. I don't think he was number 15. It was like number 12.
It was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. But, I mean, it was a quarterback-rich draft, supposedly. And Bo Nix has distinguished himself extremely well as he is a starter and being looked at, Lubie. Premature evaluation, perhaps, but being looked at, not like he's a second coming to John Elway for the Broncos, but being looked at as a possible franchise linchpin quarterback that Denver can enjoy. And Sean Payton is a quarterback whisperer of sorts. I mean, is he any Adam Gase? I don't know, but certainly has had his share of success because Drew Brees wasn't a great quarterback when he went to the New Orleans Saints under the tutelage of one Sean Payton, but he certainly became one. Now, most of that is on Drew Brees, but at the same time, you can't ignore the fact and overlook the fact that Sean Payton had great success with a guy who the Chargers weren't even sure. I mean, they let him go.
He was good. I mean, he showed signs of the Chargers. They just used a top 5 pick on Phillip Rivers and done a concocted trade with the Giants with Eli Manning that they sort of had made their bed, and that's where they were going. And look, Rivers had a good career. Eli Manning had a good career. So it was kind of trade that worked.
And Dolphins passed on him, which is always a good sign.
Of course, obviously.
Got a crippled Dante Culpepper in a wheelchair coming in for his tryout, and then you got Drew Brees throwing the ball all over the field, and Dolphins medical staff looks and says, "Man, this guy will never last." that was classic. But anyway, so Jameis last night. This just sucks if you're a bettor. And my trepidation about. Look, it doesn't take a genius to realize that Jameis Winston,
Interceptions.
while capable of igniting wildfires, literally offensively, is at the same time, to his own detriment, very capable of making the huge and just bonehead blunder mistake. And those kind of things never happen at good times, but especially in critical times. Now, if you're a gambler last night, you had this thing under lock and key, Libby. You're getting 6 points with the Cleveland Browns. You thought at various points, various junctures during the game that you were dead meat. They kept giving you reason for hope. Finally, Sean Payton has a chance to go for like a fourth and inches, and he opts, and I think he probably made the right move. It turned out to be anyway. He goes for the field goal there instead of he was trailing, so you have to kick the field goal in that spot. Do you not? I mean, they lined up as if they were going to go for it. The announcers, Troy Aikman, I guess, was doing a game, and he's like, "Yeah, well, that's the move." I'm like, "Well, what are you fucking out of your mind? You want to take the lead here? There's a couple of minutes to go."
Yes, you always take a lead.
How could you possibly risk something going wrong in this play and then leaving the ball in Cleveland's hands with about 3 minutes to go in a ball game, and you're trailing still because you went for it?
Jameis needing to make a play is when he makes the stupidest fucking plays. So,
oh my god,
it's a shame. I mean, that's what he literally in the same game he can look like the best quarterback in the league and the worst. That's literally what Jameis. That's why he has moved around. It's not because he doesn't have the talent. It's because he has to take chances and he can't help himself. And he's over 10 years in the league and it's still the same dude as he was when he was a rookie.
This is worse than betting hockey over-unders, though, this particular situation. And I can't tell you how many times I've been yelling, pick six, because it's the only thing that can save your fucking ass on certain bets, where you need an improbable pick six in the last 20 seconds or so of a ball game. Now, in this case, happened inside of the last 2 minutes. And on top of that, just to add insult to injury, the guy who picked off the ball was actually on the ground and went untouched, and he gets up and runs it in for 6 points. You are completely fucked against the point spread if you had the Cleveland Browns. Now, it took balls to bet the Browns, 6 points. I don't know that it's a ton of points in the NFL, but these games are always coming down to, it seems like, a small margin under a touchdown. So, yeah, it was generous enough possibly to tempt you into it. If you knew this, if you knew that Jameis was going to throw for 497 yards and 4 touchdowns, you would have felt pretty comfortable with the 6 points. But that's the worst. I mean, in hockey, they pull the goalie. It's 4-3 or whatever. The over/under is 7.5. And every shot, every puck that goes down the other end of the ice to the empty net, you're literally crawling out of your skin, hoping that it doesn't go in. Miss. And in this case, you're screaming for the pick six, and you get it if you had the Denver Broncos. And so that's how that game ultimately was decided. In terms of the point spread, and Denver, they didn't really have it locked up. Jameis is driving the ball. What were they, around the 40-yard line when he threw this thing?
And all they needed was an INT. I mean, all they needed was a field goal.
Field goal to win. That's what happened.
You have to know Jameis enough to just be smart there. Just fucking run the ball. Quick screen. Like, Jameis is willing to do that. Like, God damn it, Jameis.
He ended up with 3 picks in the ballgame, 2 of which went back for
pick sixes. Like, that's the other thing that Jameis does. Like
14 points.
He throws picks. It's not that he throws interceptions. He throws fucking pick sixes. Like, that's sort of what he goddamn does.
He just likes to find the open man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which team it is. Oh, we saw that in that one great season when he threw for 5,000 yards and threw like 37 interceptions. That was unbelievable. So an entertaining game, nonetheless. You had the Browns were in it most of the way. Took a late lead, coughed it up, and then had a chance to win a ball game. And, of course, they fuck it up completely. And you end up covering with the Denver Broncos, which I did recommend, but I don't feel really that great about it. So that was one thing. And I was mixing in a little interaction there with the Miami Heat. And the Heat got off to a real good start in that ball game. They're up 7-0. They were missing Jimmy Butler again, which he's missed 5, I think, of the 19 games played so far by the Miami Heat.
Yeah, what a difference. Yeah, contract Jimmy.
Contract Jimmy, yes. Well, I mean, look, if you're hurt, you're hurt. There's not much you can do about it. He's got a knee issue. Do you think that he's dogging it, Lubie? Is that your assertion?
I just think this is him. I think to give him a big contract now, whoever does that is dumb as fuck. Like, he's going to play 65 games or less. Like, that's what he's going to do, hurt or not. this is
How old is Jimmy Butler, man? He's been
he's in
around.
his mid 30s. He's in his mid 30s, and he's played a very physical brand of basketball on both ends of the floor for.
And he needs to be that physical to be effective. Also.
Yeah. So his body is more like a guy in his, and again, he's not that big. He's not LeBron. Like, so he plays a physical brand. He's done it for well over a decade. Does it on both ends of the floor. So his body's more like a guy in his late 30s, early 40s. Like, I get it. Just he wants this max contract. And it's like, I think you're a stupid fucking organization to give him that contract. This is just what he is. Like this kind, he's given them, okay, so he's played 14 of 19 games. And in those 14, he's given them 3 really good games? Like, is it more than 3? Like, I don't think he's given them more than 3, like 30 point. Wow. Joel Embiid saying he's the best player in the league games. I think it's like 3, maybe 4 of 14. So of the 19 games you played, the guy that wants a max contract in a contract year has given you 20% of the season. Like, that's the thing. Even when he does play, he's like their second or third scorer most games.
Yes.
Bam is giving you nothing. Like, Bam is a fucking shell of himself. I don't know what the hell's happened there.
His shooting was horrendous in the game last night. I think he was
missing like layups. Like, how the fuck is he missing layups? It's like, dude, dunk the guy. Like, what are you doing?
You're rooting for him. I mean, he seems like such a good guy.
I like him.
That whole Pat Riley mentality, where team first and all of that, and unselfish. Maybe to a fault. That was one of the things about Bam Adebayo. You were hoping that. How many times have you seen Bam Adebayo receive a pass in a sort of high post position? Not really high post, but even in the paint. His back is to the basket, and he never looks at the basket. He just shovels it back out, but without ever looking at the basket to see what's transpiring in front of him.
All the time.
A lot of times. It just seems a little bit lame there, seeing Bam Adebayo catch the ball and then without turning around, throw it out to a guy that's behind him. And you're asking yourself, when is this guy going to get more assertive? You've been screaming for this forever. When he does, everybody sings his praises and says, well, yeah, that's the Bam Adebayo we've been looking for. But lately, he's been ice cold. They were asking, Tyler Hero post-game interviews are not especially exciting. Are they, Lumi? What do you think?
He's learned to just do the standard quarterback speak.
Yes. Ira Winderman asked him all these sophisticated, deep questions with all kinds of subtleties and dualities and deep meaning, and he does it very well. And you're asking yourself, I wonder how Ira could keep his enthusiasm for doing post-game locker room interviews with Tyler Hero for as many years as he's been doing it, Louis. Could you possibly still be interested in asking a guy a sophisticated question and then getting a response like, "Oh no, I think he's fine." When he's asking about Bam Adebayo and is he slumping and what do you do to help him out of it and all of these different things and psychoanalysis. And Tyler Hero, you think he deliberately dumbs it down, like he might be one of the more interesting guys to talk to, but he does the old Shaq thing where he
Tyler Hero, he used to say stuff like, again, he's grown up a lot. He's playing much better basketball. He's not the problem on this team for the first time in his career. He's playing games. He's not hurt. He's playing on both ends. Like, his defense isn't a sieve anymore. Like, they're not attacking him on the defensive end. He's not going to give you anything. Like, he literally is finally not the problem. If they had to do a trade, he'd be like the centerpiece and no one would be mad about it. He's playing better ball than Maxey. He's playing all these other guys the guys that the Blazers didn't want him for are all trash. Henderson, has he done that? He was a top 3 pick and people liked him. I liked him. I haven't heard his name at all. Tyler Hero is a legit all-star caliber player right now, and none of them are. Like, so he's not going to give you crap. If he's smart, he just says, yep, it was a tough game. We'll be better tomorrow. Like, if he's smart, he would learn from fucking Mike Norvell and say not a goddamn thing, because he's the least of their worst. He's actually, and I've never said this, even when he played well, I've never said this, he's their most consistent player, and it's by a lot. Like, I don't know who their second guy is. Like, it's just him by himself in a corner.
It'd be my man Jaime Jaquez, who every time I see him, I can't get this out of my head, Louis. I just picture those days at the Hollywood YMCA when we were running full with Tommy Chong. He looks just like Tommy Chong out there on the basketball court. Jaime Jaquez Jr. A little better player, but Tommy Chong was not bad. If you're thinking that's some kind of a joke, he's a pretty good basketball player. And he had the long hair and the whole thing. And he had that kind of slashing game with the moves under the hoop and the multiple spins before he gets a shot off. Very, very effective, smart, intelligent player. Jaquez, he couldn't be the second best player on the team. I mean, You're looking at what? You
No, I
have
mean,
to say
it
Bam
should be
Adebayo,
Bam
but
and Butler, but and then Hero, but they just aren't. Butler either doesn't play or when he plays, he's so. And Bam is literally a shell of himself. Like I don't know what the Olympics are supposed to make him better. Usually, this time of the year, he's playing really good basketball, and then after the All-Star break, he plays poorly. Like this is like after All-Star break, Bam, and I don't get it. I
all
don't.
right. Well, not exactly making a big impression this
No,
year's
no.
version of the Miami Heat. Around 500, I think. Did that drop them to 500? I believe it may have.
Yeah.
They're either a game under, game over.
No, 9-10. They're 9-10.
Yeah, game
They
under.
lost to the Raptors the other day.
Celtics 108, Miami 89. Miami shooting. I mean, you talk about Brick City. I thought I heard. I don't know. I'm doing a show later this afternoon. Our conversations. It's going to be with the great Eric Reed. I'm looking very much forward to that because the guy's been with the team since its inception, Lubie. Can you imagine? I don't know that an hour is even close to enough time to go through all of the different things that Eric Reed has experienced and all the different eras of Heat basketball and different configurations of teams, including two different ones that were championship teams. And even this one, Lubie, if you think about it, are they not like a little bit of a Buffalo Billion type of situation, if that can be a way to characterize something? They knocked on the door, 3 years in a row without winning the championship.
Who? The Heat?
The Miami Heat, yeah. Then they go to like 3
3 out
finals.
of 4 years. They've been to 3 They were in 3. No, they were in 3 conference finals in 4 years, 2 finals. They
Two
went to
finals, yeah. That's not terrible.
No, what do you mean? It's why Heat fans most should be satisfied. Remember, they were in a place where they weren't supposed to be able to recover from it. They pulled the Jimmy Butler move out of their ass, and they became a contender in a time when they weren't supposed to be. So that's why
Draft picks in the middle of the first round with Hero and Bam Adebayo.
Well,
It's funny too because I mean when I hear you talking about Tyler Hero in such superlative tones, Mike Lubie Lubitz, it is amazing that nobody wanted him. He was like the junk bond in a throw-in deal, and everybody was rejecting it, thinking, "Well, who the fuck wants Tyler Hero?" 20 games into this season, he's changed the perspective completely.
Yeah.
I always thought he was a valuable commodity. I really did.
Oh, you did. You've always vouched for him. I've been tough on him. And most Heat fans like him, but are confused by him. And I've seen the light with him. He seems in the playoffs, he always struggled, or then he would get hurt. So it was really annoying. But look, you got to give the guy his due when it's there. He's the one guy every night that they can count on, and he's playing games. And again, defense was a major issue for him. He's not elite defensively, but he's not a problem. Like they used to hunt him. Like they're not hunting him anymore. Like you can't.
Oh, he was a blow by specialist. I mean, people just would blow by him.
It was like Harden. The other day, he made a steal that led to them winning the game. Like he's not been a problem for them. It's just annoying that everyone else has. Terry Rozier sucks, like Andy has said for a long time. Bam has fallen off. Butler, you can't count on. Like Hawkes is solid, but he hasn't taken a step. They thought he would take a step and become a starter. No, he's a nice bench pseudo starter, 4th, 5th best player guy. Like he hasn't asserted himself. Jovic, who took a step last year, is taking a step backwards this year after the Olympics where he was supposed to grow. Like the roster that was supposed to take all these steps hasn't. And they're in a really sort of weird spot because Scoop said this, like the first month to month and a half would tell what they're going to do this year. I mean, if we're going by that,
they're doing about what you would have figured. At least me. I don't know. I was not nearly as optimistic about the Heat having a successful season as I was about your Miami Dolphins, Mr. Dolphin.
for sure.
Unbelievable. All right, so they go down, and that was unfortunate. We saw the Jameis disaster there. The pick 6 to beat you is just as disgusting a beat as you could possibly take, especially if there was some annoying guy like me in the casino near you and that was screaming, pick 6, pick 6. And then the guy does it and beats you. Oh, my God. The chalk players are rejoicing while those that had the balls, the guts to go ahead and back Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns on the road against a 7-5 at the time Denver Bronco team, they leave there just with something to legitimately bitch about, right? I can't believe it, man. You threw a fucking pick 6. The one thing that could beat you. And it's the jockey falling off when he's in front by 4, the horse jumping a rail and ended up in the Gulfstream Park Lake. That happened to me. As a guy was pounding me on the back going, you got it, Defo. You got it, Defo. Next thing you know, this horse looks like Jacques Cousteau. And you say, well, what was he doing in the middle of the infield lake? All right, so, that didn't work out too well for the local teams last night. Panthers are in action tonight. They take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're now second in their Atlantic Division to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are suddenly alive and well. Does that city ever get? Do they get a championship somehow? The Toronto Maple Leafs, that would be something. You talk about a team that's been well supported. This is very much like the Chicago Cubs, where although the Cubs were always bad, the Maple Leafs had their years where they were good, but they just never can win the championship. How long has it been? What was Toe Blake coaching there the last time they won a championship?
Years.
My God.
I think it's since the 50s. So
It's been a long, long time. All right, we had a hiring and a firing that we didn't get to mention. FAU hires Zach Kitley.
Oh, they did? I never heard of this. Okay.
Texas Tech offensive coordinator. That went down yesterday. So he replaces Tom Herman. I was having a conversation with a couple of guys that deal a lot with FAU yesterday. And it just, I don't know. Didn't you not get the feeling, Lubie? And this left an indelible impression with me. When we were talking to Tom Herman a couple of times, we had an interview with him live in person and one here on the video stream. And didn't you get the impression that he was resigned to the fact that this just couldn't work?
He was not. He and we didn't talk about it enough, but it was the conversation that you always want coaches to have that they never, like you always joke in signing day, the early signing day is tomorrow. And even Norvell, whose class is totally falling apart, will just talk about.
We got virtually everything we wanted. It couldn't have been any better. What a great job by our recruiters out there.
Always positive, blah, 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 blah. When you can't, it can't. Like Norvell's class went from top 10 to like in the 50s. Like you can't.
Oh, wow. What happened?
Well, he's lost he's fired. They were 2-10 and he fired his whole staff. Now the guys he's bringing in are way better than the guys he had.
Good guys. Gus Malzahn, and he just hired a defense.
Guys he's bringing in are highly better than the guys he had, but guys already left and committed elsewhere. Some of the guys that are left may stay, may not. But Norvell, I'm sure, will do, the coach spin. Like Herman didn't do that. Herman going into a year when everyone's positive, everyone singing the praises, was very pacified. It just felt like
it was more subdued, I think.
Okay. Yeah. It just felt, it was like,
well, what's the point of recruiting a guy? We'll just lose him after a year anyway.
Yeah, that's sort of what he said. Like, he was like, look, it's really tough because we had this guy who was a freshman, an All-American, and we knew we had no shot at keeping him. No. And it feels like that's sort of the case. Look, and the Malzahns of the world who still can coach, like UCF. I didn't realize UCF had one of the best offenses in the country, but they did the thing where they were G5 and now they're moving into Power 4. And look, people will look at SMU. Well, SMU's in Dallas, a major city. It's a fucking oil-rich city. It's the only college in that city. So the Dallas oil people pour money into SMU. It's why SMU wanted to get into a real conference, because they knew financially they could hang. We saw what they did in the fucking 80s. The last time you were allowed to just throw money at kids. Sure. Like, they are the kind of program.
The entire program.
They are the kind of program that can afford to get into the powers and go, okay, we'll have plenty of NIL money. That's not UCF. Like, no. UCF is fourth or fifth. Like, in their state, SMU can become the second program in that state. I mean, Texas Tech, Lubbock is a bullshit ass fucking city. Like, you can move up in the state of Texas. You're not going to be Texas. I mean, that's just nuts. But you can become the second best school. UCF's not going to be the second best. For all the shit they talk, they're fourth. They're going to be fourth. That's where they're going to be in this state, and let alone where the way people recruit this state. So Malzahn, I thought it was a great hire for them, and I didn't think he did horrible, but he didn't do great either. And you're seeing these older coaches go, fuck it. Like Chip Kelly, UCLA liked him. He wasn't getting fired. And he's like, fuck it. I'll go to Ohio State. Let Ryan Day deal with all the bullshit. And I can be the offensive coordinator. They'll pay me a shitload of money. And they'll leave me because no one's blaming Chip Kelly. No one's even brought up Chip Kelly's name, even though his offense has been up and down all year with a lot of talent. Like, Malzahn is like, all right, screw it. I'll go to Florida State. I'll be a offensive coordinator under Norvell. Either we'll do really well and I'll get credit, or we'll do poorly and they'll blame Norvell. And maybe I'll go get another.
Norvell gets fired. He's in a good position to get the job.
Yeah, he's gonna get that job. Right? So that's the thing. It's like Herman, literally, you could hear it in his voice. Like, not that he was quitting, but he didn't have high hopes for what was going to happen this year. And we saw what happened this year.
Impossible situation, it appears. I mean, so not that they were going to contend for national championships in football. It was remarkable that the team, with Dusty May, got to a Final Four in basketball and actually had a chance to win it all. I don't know that ever happens again. And you can't imagine. I mean, look, we got to know Charlie Partridge when he was coaching there. You had Taggart, who had experience, especially at that level. He wasn't being asked. The demands of being a Florida State head coach no longer on him. So you would have thought that he could do some good in that spot. Couldn't move the needle a bit. And the Lane Kiffin did some things there and benefited. He came in after Charlie and had at least a foundation there. And this was prior to NIL.
Yes, I was going to say Lane Kiffin
So,
got the right under the radar right
Yeah.
before the NIL transfer portal thing exploded, and he got the fuck out.
It's crazy. FAU and FIU, they're just not in a position to. A guy gets offered $1 million to go somewhere else, to go to Baylor or whatever. And what are you going to do? You're going to say, hey, good luck. That's it. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to assemble any kind of really competitive roster if you're going to lose players after 1 year like that on a consistent basis, because that's what all of the other schools are doing. They're just looking and going, okay, this guy's good. Get some money. We'll take
Well,
a
you know
shot.
what? Look, what you are seeing is on the Power 4 level, you are seeing parity because it's allowing schools to go to their high donors, and because every school has a billionaire of some kind. And look, Georgia Tech just stole a guy from us. They have a 5-star offensive lineman. You saw they became a decent program this year. Like, it's allowing the schools in the Power 4. Again, the money is big in the Power 4. Even the ACC, which is a disaster, it's still decent money. Like, you're seeing those programs be able, look, it's parity. Georgia's probably going to lose 3 fucking games this year. Alabama lost 3 games this year. Like, the upper level, it is more parity than we've ever seen. We've gone to a 12-team playoff, and we're having the same issues at 12. And the professor said this. The rest of us was like, well, at least when they go to 12, there won't be questions. Yes, well, the last from 10 to 14, no one knows who the fuck those 2 teams are. So it's more parity there. It's just the lower level schools that could pop off here and there. I wonder if they'll be able to do that, because it feels like when they show any signs of progress, the vultures swarm in season and get these guys to start thinking of transferring.
FIU, another impossible situation. Mike McIntyre can. We liked him. Went 4-8 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Most enthusiastic press conference I've ever seen. Convinced me that they were in there with at least a minor shot of having or achieving some level of success beyond being a 33% win team. 4-8. Not the most outrageous top heavy of conferences, but still, yeah. And I guess they made competitive showings in some of the games that they lost, but not good enough. So McIntyre probably becomes what, a coordinator somewhere?
Probably.
Yeah. All right.
Those are the sport. And look, same thing with Herman. Like Herman,
Herman, I would think, would still have very high value to many programs. I don't know about it. If you're canned as the head coach at FAU, I mean, what's the next step?
I
If
mean,
you're talking about descending the ladder of opportunities when it comes to being a head coach at a high level. Where is it after FAU? Fairleigh Dickinson? I mean, what are we talking?
Coordinator or an assistant and work your way back up. I mean, guys do it. It happens.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, he's made a lot of money between Texas and FAU. It's not like he's in a rush. He
doesn't
just
need the captain. Yes.
He likes coaching, and I think he knows the game. It's just a weird. We're in a weird place.
His buyout at Texas was enough to say, "Hey, thanks everybody. It's been great."
Yeah.
And that would be the temptation. So you do admire those guys that actually like to work. I don't know that he needed any more cash to get through life. Very smart. You would imagine can manage his money well. But what was it, a $4 million buyout or
He
something?
got $4 million from FAU,
Yeah.
which then is not chump change.
Enough for me. I'd be right out the door there. There you go. I'd be right on the waterfront there in Melbourne and waving to you from a distance every day, Lubie, saying, "Hey, how's the show going?" All right. Luke Carnesecca checked out. That was something we didn't get to mention yesterday. And also lost a friend over the weekend that I hadn't seen for a long time, but used to hang out with this guy at the track, and it was an honor and a privilege. So we'll get into some of that as we continue. Speaking of people out of the past, I watched as I was perusing channels. I fell upon a couple of 30 for 30s on ESPN2 last night, and I've seen them both multiple times. One was the speech with Jimmy Valvano, and then they followed that with the story of the 83. And I've seen this documentary, I would say, in excess of 10, 15 times, and I still enjoy it. The story of the 83 NC State team with Jimmy V coaching, and that's what brought him. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't recognizable before that, but winning that championship with a team that had 10 losses, Lubie. The teams they beat on the way to winning that title, that was one of the most. Is that the number one college basketball upset story of all time? That
Villanova
championship. What do you think?
Well, Villanova. It's Villanova.
Villanova would be one with Eddie Pinckney. That team was great, but they beat Houston. And Houston has Olajuwon, and did they also have Clyde the Glide Drexler?
Yes, Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon.
Clyde Slamma-Jamma, yeah. They beat these guys. And they beat Ralph Sampson a couple of times during the course of the season in the ACC championship game and then again in the NCAA tournament. Ralph Sampson, what a team those guys had in Virginia. That was a hell of an era of college basketball. It was very, very entertaining. And NC State, it wasn't like you looked at their players and said, oh, my God, Thurl Bailey, I guess, was the most distinguished as a pro. But what was he? Was he great, Lubie? Thurl Bailey? Had a great voice. One of the great voices. Should have been a DJ. That was Miles Davis. No, I mean, he had one of the great voices I've ever heard from any athlete. We're going to come back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Kind of a rambling adventure here so far on this Tuesday. Looks like a beautiful day out there, Luke.
And the weather's fantastic.
My God. And we'll be back with more in a moment on that.
The time.
It's to beat you, man. That is disgusting. It's 8:37 against us. Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
This comes from the great Defo Lama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
I was searching for this yesterday while I was in the middle of a show trying to figure out who the Packers were playing this week. They're playing the Lions on Thursday Night Football. I couldn't find it because I wasn't looking for Thursday night. I'm looking for Sunday. So that's a pretty good way to start out the NFL week. Interesting speculation here by a guy named Doug Kazarian, an Armenian fellow, Doug Kazarian.
He used to be on ESPN. I know that name. He was on ESPN for a
Heard of Doug Kazarian?
That name was on ESPN. He was one of the sports guys. And then I think he did a gambling show there.
Perfect call by you, because he's doing a gambling segment here, New York Post Action. And his recommendation is, and it's kind of interesting, the theory behind it. A lot of these guys are very good writers, even though they're usually dead wrong when it comes to their selections. But he speculates that in any form of gambling, you're dealing with usually a massive casino mathematical edge. If you're talking about shooting craps or blackjack, I mean, it doesn't have to be massive, but in that case, they're grinding it out so consistently that all they have to do is allow the course of time to go ahead and take place. And eventually, no matter what's happening, some guy could be killing them. They're eventually going to get their whatever it is edge plus factor in the edge that they gain from lousy play or for poor coaching, as you see, has been impactful on both the college and the professional level. when it comes to every football season, right? Is there a football season that goes by that some coach doesn't make an absolutely boneheaded blunder, a Cristobal-esque type of move, Louis? There's never a season where you have, whoa, geez, man, every team was well coached this year. It's incredible. That never happens. But they're saying that in this case, that there are ways to defeat casinos in terms of, or at least negate the edge. If you're betting things now, which there are all kinds of wild proposition bets that you can make, including who's going to make the field for the college football playoff, which you were just discussing. And you're getting a nice price on this one, Lubie. Would you take 8-1 for the Hurricanes to make the field? The Hurricanes still to make the field of 12. Did they not deserve to be in the field of 12, even though you hate them?
It's not
You've
hating.
been down on them the entire season. You fight brutally with, I mean, it's worse than that Ohio State-Michigan melee when you get on Twitter with a bunch of Hurricane fans. And you like to bait them and hate them. And I think at this point that you really get great pleasure out of just egging them on. Right? Because, look, it's very debatable. Do they belong in the 12-team playoff? Are they one of the 12 best teams in the country? As recently as last week, and I guess we'll get an indication tonight, these new rankings come out. Would this not be the final rankings before the conference championship games?
Yes,
And
yes.
those figure to decide a lot.
Yes. Look, these rankings don't matter. Everyone's looking at last year. FSU moved to number 3 in these rankings. These rankings don't mean shit. FSU went from 3, won their conference championship by double digits in a smothering performance, and went back 2 spots.
Yes.
To a team that didn't even play.
It was like Jose Suleiman came back from the grave and was doing the rankings for the World Boxing
So the rankings this week mean nothing. Canes fans are going to, like, if the Canes are in the top 12, they're going to, oh, we made it. You didn't make anything. These rankings mean nothing. The Canes deserve to be in the discussion. I mean, people are talking about South Carolina. I don't know where the fuck South Carolina. They have 3 losses too. Like, how are you? Like, I know South Carolina's played really good ball down the stretch.
Yes.
Beat some good teams. They have 3 losses. I mean, look, if they had 1 or 2, fine. 3 losses. Look, the reason Bama will get in with 3 losses is because they're fucking Bama. You're not getting in with 3 losses at South Carolina.
You don't have the Saban factor so much.
I don't know. I look, Miami. Supposedly the strength of schedule is not as bad as I've made it out to be. Fine, they haven't played a ranked team. And it's hard for me to get over that. Are they in discussion? Yeah, they're anywhere from 12 to 14. I think they should be 14.
Would you take 8-1 on them to make the playoffs?
Yeah, because a lot of it's weird. It's like the anti-FSU.
South Carolina, by the way, was 5-2 a couple of weeks ago before they pulled out this latest victory.
Yeah,
which was significant.
Clemson. They beat Clemson, who was higher ranked than them.
Right.
So South Carolina actually has a better shot, because again, the SEC is going to get 4 teams, and that's what the ACC people don't get. The SEC is going to get 4 teams. So is it South Carolina? Is it Alabama? If Georgia loses, is it Georgia? I just don't see the ACC getting 2 and the SEC getting 3. The SEC is going to fucking lose their shit over that. I don't see that happening. And the way Miami's played down the stretch makes them look better. Miami, again, the last has not played good football. They've struggled with everyone.
A 4-point loss on the road to a team that's 9-3. Is that enough as your second loss? Is that enough to knock you out of contention? Now their schedule was weak. You've been on that all year long.
And they played 3 G5/FCS teams, 3, which I don't know if I've seen anyone do that. Look, it's going to come down to nitty-gritty
like that. Remember you used to justify having a bunch of schmank teams on your schedule by saying, "Oh, well, they draw those up 20 years in advance. How do they know that so and so is going to suck?" But I mean, how do you draw up a schedule like this and say, this will get it?
I think it was Toledo, FAMU, and USF. You know what those 3 programs, it's not Florida State where they may be good or maybe bad. Or UF. When they took UF, fine, even though UF's been much more bad than they've been good, fine. UF, rival, you bring them back to rival. Those 3 games, you knew what the fuck they were going to be. I mean, get the hell out of here. And you miss Clemson, Pitt, and SMU, the real 3 best teams in the conference. Whatever. Look, they're going to be anywhere from 12 to 14. Depending on how the conference championships go, they may find their way in. I think if they do, they're going to get housed by whoever they play in the first round. But I guess making the playoffs is better than not making the playoffs. I just find it funny. Like, a lot of people are lobbying for them that weren't lobbying for FSU last year. And I get it. They have Cam Ward and FSU didn't have Travis, but that FSU team was much more impressive than they played really good teams. They beat really good teams and they won down the stretch. When the going got tough, they won games. UM, when the going's gotten tough, has played like garbage. And or played average. And somehow I guess because Ward is one of the more exciting players in the country, the idea is let's get him in the playoff. Let's have our talent shine. Okay, so force Colorado in then. Like I like that's a weird like then it's not playoffs then. Like what are we doing? Like I don't understand that idea. This isn't the tournament where you're just looking for the 64th team. So let's put in Jimmer Fredette. Like this isn't that. There's 12 teams out of hundreds. Like put the 12 best. And record does matter. And who you played does matter. All of those factor in. It's hard for me to put Miami in with that. I think South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama beat the shit out of Miami. I think they beat the living shit out of them. Their defense sucks. Like it's not even, it was average most of the year. The last month, their defense has been horrible. And their offense, as you can tell, when they play any kind of defense, it's okay. It's good. It's not great. I just don't think they fit in the same room with any of those programs. And I almost want them to make the playoffs just to shut their fans up. Because
see, I told you it would come out.
Whoever they play, they're going to get housed. So it's like, okay, put them in. Like that's why I wanted us in, because I think we would have beaten whoever we played. Our defense was playing so good and our run game was strong that we would have beaten any of the teams we played in that playoff. Let them play. Let them make the playoff. Fuck it. Because I think it's going to be a disaster for them. And it only puts more of a light and shows just how far they are away from these other programs.
You would probably have to assume that Mario Cristobal will be the 12th of 12 coaches.
Yes.
In terms of guys that you would love to have on your sideline, especially in a big ball game. This Kazarian says, I firmly believe Miami DraftKings odds of plus 800 to make the playoff and 300 to 1 to win the national championship are completely out of whack. By no means is it a guarantee. But he goes on to say, I think the playoff odds should be closer to plus 250. I mean, so you're getting a huge discrepancy there. He says he's of the belief the Hurricanes will reach the playoff if SMU beats Clemson in Saturday's ACC title game. The Mustangs are favored by 2.5 points. And you seem to like the way they're playing. And his whole contention is based on the idea that nobody knows. Nobody has any great expertise in what the committee will decide. It just is somewhat arbitrary, and there's no inside track on this thing. So in making a bet like this, he says, unlike craps or roulette, the house has absolutely zero advantage on bettors in these kind of prop bets. Because they have no idea. They don't know what the committee is going to say when it convenes. They literally have no more expertise than anybody else. And that is the potential beauty of exploiting the situation.
Well, 8 to 1 are great odds for.
There's an opportunist in terms of degenerates, huh?
I mean, they're even. Like that's the thing is, I'm talking all this shit, but at worst they're going to be 14. Okay, so you're 2 spots out. They're not some like Hail Mary. Like 8 to 1 is usually like a massive underdog. They're not a massive underdog. Most people have them finding their way in. So if you can get 8 to 1,
8 to 1
that actually has a good shot at happening, that's actually amazing odds. Like they have.
The only problem would be if I took advantage of it, and let's say I put a stick on there at 8 to 1 to win 800, then it would eliminate any possibility they had of making the postseason, the championship run. But with that, I mean, once word got out that I had a stick and a chance to make 800, Louis, don't you think the committee would take that into consideration and say, we can't let this poor fucker win? Look, he had the Browns plus 6 points before Jameis, inside of 2 minutes, throws a pick six, and the whole thing's going back the other way. Such a disgusting beat. I can't get that quite out of my system. I don't know. It seems like it makes some sense, Lubie. Look, you're not getting 8 to 1 because it's a guarantee. That's for sure. But is this Kazarian not correct in his approach that if you're one of those guys that's looking for a price and looking for value in a bet, which is something I don't take into consideration as much as I should, Libby. I don't know about you. Are you looking for value, or do you just, because of your obsessive desire to gamble, to just automatically throw money down on one team or the other? And you're not thinking, oh, well, geez, I'm getting some real value here because I'm getting, instead of what I think is 4 points, I'm getting 8 points. Would you use that in consideration of making a bet? In this case, you would have to. I think you would have to take that into consideration. At 8 to 1, it's pretty good value on a Hurricane team that probably should be 5 to 1 at best to make the postseason. If SMU is 5 to 2, not SMU. If South Carolina is 5 to 2, then you figure maybe Miami's 5 to 1, and you're getting 8.
Yes,
Is that enough to entice you to go ahead and invest in Bitcoin, my friend?
Yeah, there you go. I'm not gonna do anything with it, but I'm just saying if you're a gambler, those are nice odds. Like Andy's not wrong. I agree with Andy. I don't think they make it in. I thought the ACC was only gonna get one team all year. That has not changed for me. And then Miami down the stretch struggled. Then Miami went 2-2 down the stretch in the worst Power Four conference. They're not even playing in their conference championship game, let alone going to lose their conference championship game.
In a weaker conference, as you've been pointing out.
I don't see how you put them in, but they've been around the top 10 all year. Their 2 losses are as the Canes fans like to say, the case they're making, they're on the road. They lost a total of less than 9 points versus 2 teams that have turned to be good teams that are bowl teams. They played 6 bowl teams. FSU played fucking 11, by the way. They played 6 bowl teams, which I don't know what that means. You should play at least half bowl teams. What are you supposed to play, 2 bowl teams? Like, I don't even know how that's a positive for Miami. But anyways, there's a resume to be made there. ACC people are pumping them up in a way they didn't pump up FSU. The SEC has bludgeoned the shit out of each other, where it's not like last year where it's a bunch of 1 and 2 loss teams. It's going to end up being a bunch of 3 loss teams and a couple of 2 loss teams. So there's more arguments to be made for Miami than not. 8-1, with that being said, is a really good number. I agree with it. If you know in the end, if you know in the end it's not going to happen, it doesn't matter if it's 40-1.
No, that's the truth.
You know, but
you really picked up on this gambling thing, Lubie.
But it's not an automatic. Like, I actually don't agree with Andy in that regard. As a guy who's talked the shit, I'm seeing a lot of arguments for Miami in a way that I didn't see for FSU last year. So you know what? At 8-1, there is a shot to get in. There legitimately is a shot. People want to see Cam Ward on that.
Highly regarded all year, also. You know, people don't always forget about that. Even though, wow, I mean, if you looked at UConn's basketball team, can you believe this? They lose 3 in a row in the Maui Classic, and they go from number 2 in the country to barely scratching the surface there of the top 25, I believe, at number 25. UConn, Danny Hurley's got to be, I mean, just throwing up pineapple bits on his way back to the East Coast after the shellacking that they took there. And I don't know if it had exposed the idea. A lot of people probably had money riding on them making a three-peat, no? And that doesn't look so positive right now, although still very early in the season. All right, so you're saying go ahead and take the price with Miami. You agree with Kazarian that this is not a bad bet and that nobody really has any great advantage here because we've seen committees make all kinds of bizarre decisions.
Yes.
You could kind of foresee in the 14 playoff format, you could foresee FSU getting fucked last year as unjust, as ridiculous, as pathetic as that was. You could see it was about to happen. You sort of sensed it. I don't know what to make of this now, where there's such a scramble on for the final few positions in the college football playoff. But yeah, something certainly to consider. If you wanted to get 8 times your money, you want to get some Christmas money, take the stick that you were reluctantly going to burn and try to spread around the grandchildren and everybody else, and invest it in Miami to make the playoff. You'll have a decision coming up before the holiday, and
yeah, it'll be next.
I have $800, so all of a sudden it's like not only do I have gifts for everybody, but we're all going to go dining at the Cafe Seville.
There you go.
Everything's on me. I got nothing but money. And thank you, Mario Cristobal, for fucking up just enough to make it speculative that you would make the postseason when you were a veritable cinch to get in the entire way. And I mentioned briefly before we played our little commercial block there, and we appreciate you guys patronizing all of these fine sponsors that have been with us. That a friend of mine, Luke Carnesecca, of course, a big story, 99 years old. There were many that if you asked dead or alive, would you not have had to look that up to see if Luke Carnesecca was still kicking?
I thought he passed. I'm not going to lie. I really did.
I thought he was, you know what? When I saw that he had died, I was like, wow, he's still alive? You got to be kidding me, man. This guy's been around forever. And made the ugly sweater popular. He had that one that was particularly, and I think he wore that the majority of the time. He had like a thing with like brown and, I mean, just really one of the ugliest striped sweaters you've ever seen. And it wasn't fully striped either. It was some sickly color. But tremendous. I mean, well respected. Growing up in New York, and we weren't huge college basketball fans, but Lou made you a college basketball fan. And St. John's had some great programs under Lou Carnesecca. When the Big East first was formulated, Lou was a big factor there. And just a legendary guy. Well, one of those guys, I mean, I had the same perception before the Sandusky thing of Papa Joe, Lubie. Did you not think of Papa Joe in a very favorable light, whether you hated Penn State or not? just because of what he supposedly represented, which unfortunately, I don't know. Did people soften their stance on a dead Papa Joe Paterno, or
I haven't.
it's unforgivable, isn't it? I
What
mean,
he allowed was
it's
disgusting.
inconceivable.
And, yeah, it was disgusting. And whatever he knew or didn't know was because he chose to not know or didn't know. It was in front of his
Doing?
face.
Protecting a friend? I mean, you
100%.
can't do that over little kids.
It was
Get the
gross.
fuck out of here.
But yes, before then, I actually had.
I loved the guy. I thought he was one of those Carnesecca-like iconic figures.
I wasn't a Cane fan, so we didn't have FSU had no connection to Penn State, so I actually revered him. He and Bobby had their back and forth with their wins, and it was a friendly rivalry. And I always thought with the glasses, and you always heard of him really preaching education and caring about the kids. And then we knew Cephalo and all, like Juice, like all spoke so highly of him. Like the Penn State people, it was very similar to Bobby, where like he kept an eye on all of them years later, and it was the kind of thing that. It was Tony Segreto, was, boys and young guys and the men and all that bullshit. So I actually did revere him until that news came out, and that changed me.
I mean, how can you turn a blind eye to that? That's impossible. So, all right, he never shrugs that off. It's a sad way to see the characterization of Joe Paterno's life, but it can't be overlooked. I mean, it's just too overwhelming. Carnesecca never had any of these kind of controversies or anything like that. And,
no.
So, I mean, genuinely to be admired and a legendary figure in New York basketball. Checked out. But had another friend that was a legendary guy in his own right, not quite of that level, magnitude of recognition worldwide, but a lot of people would remember. No, you were too young. You weren't born yet, but they had a couple of rock and roll shows a long time ago that were on in the afternoon. One which featured the band Paul Revere and the Raiders. Did you ever hear of Paul Revere and the Raiders?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes.
Okay. Now, they were the house band on a show that was shot on the Jersey Shore. I want to say it was either Jersey Shore. It might have even been Atlantic City, called Where the Action Is. And Where the Action Is employed a male and a female house singer also. They would do covers of different songs that were popular because Paul Revere had his own music and the band, but they would play popular songs in a countdown type of format, as I recall. And the house singer, the male house singer, was a guy named Steve Alamo. Steve Alamo, who I later got to know because I believe...
Wait, didn't we fly? Isn't he who we flew with to the Derby on the Duke's plane?
Not sure. Was Steve on that plane there?
I think so. He was friends with the Duke and Visser Mama, right?
Steve Alamo, yeah. He was a very nice guy.
Yeah. We flew with him on the plane. It was either to Indianapolis or Kentucky. One of the two flights we were privileged and honored to take. He was on one of them because I remember Connie Cooper Smith was there and her family's friends with the Clintons. Like it was like the star-studded plane, and then it was you and me. And we're like, what the fuck are we doing on this plane?
It was a pretty nice little setup that we had going there for a while there with the Duke. And I'm glad I had that opportunity. If you hadn't flown private jet, like with a jet that's somewhat commensurate with a regular airline, even though naturally smaller in size, it's not like you're Donald Trump or anything. But I mean, well, what a pleasure, huh? Walk right from your car onto the plane.
Yep.
Some guy takes your car and parks it. I'll have the keys for you when you get back, Mr. DeForest. Have a nice flight.
Yeah, but he was a sweet guy. Like he had great stories, and he was a really nice guy. Like I remember going, wow, like this guy's just an average. Like he was a really good.
He was a teenage heartthrob on Where the Action Is, and I met him at Calder Racecourse. He was there every day, and I got to know him through another friend of mine. And he owned a recording studio and had some success, I believe, producing records for other people. But was saddened by the news that he checked out the other day. Good-looking guy and always had a smile on his face, something nice to say. And so Steve Alamo, any of you track degenerates out there that came across him at the South Florida racetracks, certainly would be aware that this was a guy that, unfortunately, the world, will come to miss. I don't know, could he have made 80? I don't know if he even made 80. The guy wasn't. He was already like. I had to be in his 20s when this Where the Action Is was on the air. So anyway, Steve Alamo, we pay tribute to you here on the Defo Show. It was always a pleasure coming across you. I can't believe that, Lubie. Did he fly to the Derby with us and the Duke, Steve Alamo?
I don't know. I may be thinking the wrong guy, but that name sounds familiar, and I don't know why else I would know it. And it makes me think it was him, but I may be confusing. Steve Alamo lived to 84 years old.
84, okay. All right, that makes sense. I didn't realize he was that much older than I am because I was thinking, geez, what a lucky son of a gun, man. Yeah, and I don't know that he had any hit songs of his own. Must have had something that climbed the charts, and at least it was somewhere mid-pack, no, as a hit. But no ego about any of this stuff. I mean, he was really great. So we're gonna miss him. All right, that's gonna do it for us. We had a lot of fun being with you today. Tough beat last night if you had the Cleveland Browns. And of course,
Jameis,
how fitting was that? I mean, as if it was scripted. I mean, is Roger Goodell writing a script for these games?
So Jameis going into that second to last drive, and they ended up driving again, and he threw an interception. Had like over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Almost 500 yards in a game he had.
Oh, that's after the 2 drives. I'm talking about going into that last drive. Second to last drive, had over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. People were literally saying, how is he not the Browns starter going into next year? Yeah. He then, when they're in field goal, when they're from fucking field goal range, all you have to do is just be smart with the football, and at worst, kick a field goal, take a lead, put your defense, which is one of the better defenses in football, back on the goddamn field with a rookie quarterback out there, throws it a pick 6, then they get down to the 3, throws another pick, and that's how he finishes the game.
Disgusting.
Fucking Jameis.
Wow. Well, that's it. It's right up there with the Cristobal factor. The wins.
It really is. It
really is. Somehow you're going to find a way to get fucked.
Always.
All right. Excellent, Lubie. A lot of fun. Okay. And you're going to be out somewhere with Mike Mayo later on.
We're on a Visit Lauderdale Food and Wine Festival lunchbox at S3. S3.
And where's that at?
I think it's Fort Lauderdale. I think it's by like the beach.
Okay. All right. Sounds like fun. A good day for him.
Yeah.
That's for sure. All right. So we will see you guys later on. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Tony Segreto will join us.
Yes.
Little old school.
From Vermont.
Oh, yeah. He's back up there in Vermont. Got to be freezing his fucking ass off.
Yeah, if it's cold here, I don't know what is there.
The rest of the country is like brutal, like 0 degrees. Incredible. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, getting into the holiday spirit a little bit here and gathering some momentum on that front. So we're going to have a lot of fun the rest of the way through 2024. Can't believe it's almost come to an end. You say that every year, huh, Lubie? I still remember, the whole Y2K thing, or whatever that was, 2000, turn of the century there.
Yep.
And I remember being in Las Vegas and thinking, holy shit. I've been doing calculations since I was 4 or 5 years old as to how old I would be in the year 2000. I realized I'd be 49.
There you are.
Who figured it would be like 25 years later? Lubie, what the fuck is going on here?
I know, it's crazy.
Haven't made a lot of progress since then either, in any regard. All right, except that I'm still here. And we'll be here for you again tomorrow with Tony Segreto. And so for Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
Thank you, Johnny. It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.